Common sense tells us that it's not really possible to predict the future in any way, shape, or form. Even the most offhanded, silly predictions will be correct from time to time. This is what we like to call the accidental prophet effect, which is closely related to the even a broken clock is right twice a day theorem. Of course, some actually claim to be able to foresee future events, but these people almost invariably turn out to be full of crap. Note that we said almost, because there do exist instances of absurdly accurate prognostication that can't be explained by APE, in case you didn't notice that acronym, and that make Nostradamus look like the hack he was. Today we're going to list the top 10 people that made ridiculously specific predictions that came through. Number 10, Roger Ebert. In 1987, beloved movie critic Roger Ebert gave an interview for Omni magazine in which he was asked a pretty simple question. How did he think the competition between movies and television would shape up in the future? His answer probably sounded like that of a chin-scratching intellectual then. It sounds like the words of a damn prophet today. We will have high-definition, widescreen television sets and a push-button dialing system to order the movie you want at the time you want it. You'll not go to a video store, but instead order a movie on demand and then pay for it. Video cassette tapes as we know them now will be obsolete, both for showing pre-recorded movies and recording movies. People will record films on 8mm and will play them back using a Laserdisc CD technology. With this revolution in delivery and distribution, anyone in any size or hamlet will see the movies he or she wants to see. Now, push-button dialing is a phrase that seems rather of its day, but consider the rest. On-demand cable barely existed. Cable TV in general was in its infancy. The technology that would enable video streaming wasn't just in its infancy, it was embryonic. Laserdiscs and CDs existed, but a hybrid of the two, DVDs, wouldn't be for about a decade. And did anyone even know what high definition or widescreen meant back then? This was a time when the black bars at the top and bottom of the screen in widescreen home video releases were often thought by consumers to be a defect. We would love to hear Ebert's answer to the same question today. Number 9, Elena Shepherd. Polichmik is a political news and culture website forum that launched in 2011. In January 2013, their culture editor, Elena Shepherd, was assigned to their live blog in Golden Globe Awards and pulled off a feat of prognostication that nobody on record ever has before. Of course, part of the assignment was speculating on which films and TV shows would take home the prizes. And as with the Oscars and Emmys, there are always odd choices among the no-brainer wins. One would probably have better odds of getting struck by lightning on the red carpet than predicting every last win with 100% accuracy. Yet that's exactly what Elena did. That's a perfect 25 for 25. And even allowing for the fact that Elena knows a lot about movies and TV, well, so do a lot of people. Professional people who are paid to make these kinds of predictions, yet somehow fail to do so with complete accuracy year after year. We have a few questions to ask Elena in advance of our trip to Las Vegas. Number 8, Robert Heinlein. Heinlein will not be the only science fiction author on this list. Authors in that genre area, of course, are known for looking into the future and extrapolating what it might hold. Heinlein certainly had his share of speculations about the future, which turned out to be pretty accurate, but a couple of them were mind-bogglingly specific. In his short story Solution Unsatisfactory, Heinlein depicted a United States that develops a nuclear weapon before the rest of the world, becoming the only superpower and spurring a race among the other nations of the world to develop the bomb. This is, of course, a perfect description of the nuclear arms race and the Cold War, which kicked off after the US deployed nuclear weapons against Japan in 1945. Solution, however, was written in 1940, before the United States had even joined World War II, and when the feasibility of nuclear weapons was still largely speculation. Almost stranger than this was Heinlein's near invention of the waterbed. His 1961 novel Stranger in a Strange Land contained a detailed description of such a bed, so detailed that the eventual inventor of the waterbed had trouble getting it patented. The patent wasn't issued until 1971, and Heinlein claimed to have had the idea as far back as the 1930s. Number 7, Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in 2011 and spent his entire rookie season on the bench behind Alex Smith, who is having a breakout year. The Niners would eventually lose the NFC Championship to the eventual Super Bowl champion, New York Giants. Kaepernick threw for 757 yards, no touchdowns, and 5 interceptions in relief of Smith that year. There's no way he could have predicted he'd be the Niners starter the following season, and he didn't. He predicted it when he was a grade schooler. 9-year-old Colin, describing himself as a good athlete, stated in the school assignment seen above his intention to play for the 49ers or possibly the Packers, even if they aren't good in 7 years. Okay, so his spelling and math might have been a little questionable, but his predictive powers were mighty impressive. Even if he got one aspect slightly off, the cannon-armed quarterback's breakout game in 2012 was a 45-31 destruction of the Green Bay Packers. Number 6. Arthur C. Clarke. Famed science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke employed an unprecedented collaborative process with Stanley Kubrick to complete the film and novel versions of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Author and director frequently compared notes. The novel and screenplay were written simultaneously, with Kubrick contributing heavily to Clarke's work and vice versa. One bizarrely accurate prediction makes a prominent appearance in both. In the film 2001, 2 astronauts can be seen reading a newspaper on something that looks suspiciously like an iPad. This description and the depiction in Kubrick's film were so dead on that Samsung used them in defense of the Galaxy tablet when Apple sued for patent infringement, litigation that is still pending in US courts. Number 5. The Onion. The satirical newspaper The Onion is a fantastic source of hilarity of both the intentional and non-intentional varieties. Not only is the publication reliably funny on purpose, but there have been numerous recent instances of non-US news organizations, one that are presumably mystified by Western satire, picking up Onion stories and reporting them as if they were fact. Unfortunately, it can be a lot less funny when an Onion piece actually does come true. In 2002, the RIAA was fresh from its successful battle with Napster, and the debate over online piracy was beginning in earnest. Lawsuits against individuals for file sharing were ramping up, and The Onion published a timely piece entitled, "RIAA Sues Radio Stations for Giving Away Free Music." The premise is, of course, ridiculous. At least it was until 2008. At around the same time, the RIAA announced it was ceasing action against individuals, if only because they were proving unprofitable. They began to make noise about radio broadcasting being a form of piracy, if you will, but not in the classic sense as we think of it, said Marian Makowski, a Music First spokesman. Their argument is that they provide promotional value. We think that's a red herring. Nobody listens to the radio for the commercials. We don't think that was actually the argument. We think the argument was that without radio exposure, the music industry as we know it wouldn't exist. So far, the RIAA has been unsuccessful in most of their widely varied attempts at extortion, but not for lack of trying. Number 4. Apple. In 1987, a great year for future predicting if you ask Roger Ebert, Apple made a promotional video entitled Knowledge Navigator, which looked into the future at some of the tech innovations that might be part of our lives in, say, 25 years or so. As you might be able to predict, the accuracy gets more and more unsettling throughout. The video depicts a professor preparing for the afternoon's lecture. His work is being done on a proto-iPad, a flat tablet PC with an odd-style Mac OS with a touchscreen, and that's the least weird aspect of this video. Most of his interaction is done through the titular Knowledge Navigator, which is a voice-controlled assistant the likes of which you may associate with certain Apple products. During his work, the professor takes a video call from a colleague right in a separate window on his device, which of course is Skype in a nutshell. Weirdest of all, at one point the professor calls up a 5-year-old article that is stated to be from 2006. A calendar is shown with September being the current date. This means that the video must take place sometime in the late 2011, right about the time the iPhone 4S launched, and Apple's voice-controlled assistant Siri debuted. If only she had a cool Steve Nye-looking avatar like in the video. Number 3. John Elfreth Watkins Jr. Mr. Watkins was a civil engineer, a railroad man who became a curator at the Smithsonian Institute after suffering a disabling accident. In 1900, he contributed an article to Ladies' Home Journal titled, "What May Happen in the Next 100 Years." Within this article, Mr. Watkins made a lot of predictions, large and small, for the next century. Some of these proved, despite their counterintuitiveness, to be amazingly accurate. Among the more astonishing predictions, and keep in mind this was over 100 years ago, man will see around the world. Persons and things of all kinds will be brought within focus of cameras connected electronically with screens at opposite ends of circuits, thousands of miles at a span. Could apply to satellite television, the internet, or both. There will probably be from 350 million to 500 million people in America. Most were guessing much higher at the time as the American population was exploding. Ready-cooked meals will be bought from establishments similar to our bakeries of today. Freeze-dried and packaged foods, not to mention electric refrigerators, were still far on the horizon. Photographs will be telegraphed from any distance. If there will be a battle in China 100 years hence, snapshots of its most striking events will be published in the newspapers an hour later. Photographs will reproduce all of nature's colors. Digital photography and picture sharing, and perhaps most impressive of all, wireless telephone and telegraph circuits will span the world. A husband in the middle of the Atlantic will be able to converse with his wife sitting in her boudoir in Chicago. We will be able to telephone to China quite as readily as we now talk from New York to Brooklyn. Nobody on the planet not named Tesla was thinking along these lines, except apparently Mr. Watkins. Unfortunately, Watkins died before seeing a single one of his predictions came to fruition in 1903. Number 2. Filco Ford. Filco was an early pioneer in electronics, beginning in 1892 as a maker of carbon arc lamps, and eventually becoming the most popular early manufacturer of radios. The company was bought by the Ford Motor Company in 1961, and in recognition of their 75th anniversary, they produced a short film speculating on life in the far, far future. It's titled Year 1999 AD. While the aesthetic of the film is very much of its time, and many of the fine details are rudely firmed in the 60s, the list of everyday technologies predicted in this brief 2-minute clip are astounding. Here we have 1960s conceptions of online shopping and bill paying, electronic funds transfers, compact home laser printers, and even instant written communication between individuals anywhere in the world. A perfect definition of email, long before the internet was a twinkle in anyone's eye. When this video started making the online rounds in the mid-2000s, it was scarily accurate enough to be thought a hoax, until confirmed by Snopes. Not quite accurate enough to disregard 60s gender stereotypes, but we digress. Number 1. Ray Kurzweil. Raymond Kurzweil's life and career are far too interesting to do complete justice here. His inventions are numerous: text reading software, speech recognition devices, and 5 of his novels have been bestsellers. He is the current director of engineering at Google and is a futurist. He's made dozens of predictions over the past decades with an absolutely unbelievable rate of accuracy. Not only do Kurzweil's predictions almost always come true, he usually can accurately predict when they will come true. Among the many, many examples, in his novel The Age of Intelligent Machines, Kurzweil predicted the fall of the Soviet Union by 1991, a computer beating the first human players at chess by 2000, and wireless internet becoming practical for mainstream use in the early 21st century. In The Age of Spiritual Machines, 1999, he predicted ebooks, face recognition software, and nanotechnology, and these are just a handful of examples. Kurzweil stated that by 2009, 89 out of 108 predictions he made were entirely correct. Of the rest, 13 were essentially correct, likely to come true within a few years. A reevaluation in 2012 determined that Kurzweil's prognostications are accurate a ridiculous 86% of the time. And the good news is, this is a man who has predicted that it won't be too long before we humans conquer death altogether. That was our list of the top 10 people who made ridiculously specific predictions that came true. Which do you think was the best? Comment down below, we'd like to know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you get notified the moment we upload a new video. Thanks for watching and see you on the next video.